TV, a voice starts talking statically in an interview mode, sentences broken up.
Well, it's the largest military morgue in the nation. Yes, they're still shipping them in. Yes, we aim to make sure they're all accounted for, tagged, properly labeled. Yes, the next of kin have crack forensics teams slaved around the clock in the jungle. Guyana roaches the size of flying saucers. Nothing that a stiff black thing of coffee can't cure. Well, you boys know I can't whistle Silent Night in here this cold.
A black woman sits in a chair in a semicircle holding a doll swaddled in a blanket like a baby. One by one, 3 other women join her and take a seat. A woman with dark shades and a black pastor's robe comes in quietly. The woman holds up black church fans in front of their faces as static, garbled noise comes from the TV as the women lower their fans.
Well, I don't know. Must have been some crazy, misguided niggas from Bama or deep in the backwoods.
Just up went boo in the middle of the night.
Traveling 4,000 godforsaken miles in coach class.
Ain't no accounting for California fruitiness.
Ain't no accounting for Southern fried Negro mule-headedness.
You be fruity. Royally fruity, too. After 40 fucking years of scraping the caramelized shit off Miss Ann's linoleum.
Blaspheming motherfuckers!
Well, a little blaspheming is good for the soul and the digestive system every now and then.
Cross my heart and hope to...
Honestly, best beloved, what would you miss?
Shuffling off this here mortal gourd.
The woman with the baby passes it to the last woman on the road. She strokes it awkwardly.
Spiderweb goo on the grass, French toast with melted butter and warm syrup. The split-second post-orgasm, toes uncurled like Aubry and Perry Como's mutant babies singing the bejesus out of a heretofore crappy human night. Their liquid eyes watching. San Francisco, 1975.
Jury, what say you?
The sound of a newscast echoes from the Watchwoman's TV.
Good evening. We interrupt this program to bring you a special bulletin from KTVT.
They came out with pitchforks when we moved here. The women in their white pearls and pressed gloves, the men dressed to the nines in suits and ties, beat down to a steaming pulp after a long day at the office, raised fastening their lips to big orange bullhorns like it was the bottom of the ninth at a Giants game. The whitest of the white stalking the joint. Out in the street for a tea party, pinkies raised at attention.
We could see the bay curling out at us when we drove in from Cottonwood, California. The 5 of us packed into the Dodge, watching green-eyed monster waves cut in pieces by the bridge, shimmering, debating, telling us how the cause was going to cure everything.
An attempt has been made on the life of President Ford by an unknown assailant in Sacramento.
A white secretary is seated typing. The secretary rips the paper from the typewriter and balls it up. She makes like she's going to throw it at trash and then hesitates.
Well, thank you, Mr. Newscaster. I frankly don't happen to give a shit. Oh, Jesus. Those people are still carrying on down there?
Terrence Strayer walks onto the stage carrying a briefcase.
Please thank Mr. Malloy for giving me the opportunity to interview with the
Oh,
firm.
absolutely, sweetie.
Okay, when can I expect to hear
We'll
back?
call you, hon.
The women on the other side of the stage stop, watch, and listen. They leave the stage as Carol Harper, lead temple organizer, comes on stage. She takes out $1 from her briefcase and goes to the white secretary's desk. Carol stands over the white secretary's desk holding a package. The secretary gives a clipboard and takes the package.
Hello.
Oh, hi, hon. How's Vanguard today?
Traffic out here is going to be brutal. Report says the Nimitz is jammed. Reverend Jim is doing his radio show live on the election in an hour. Need to be in the station to work the phones.
Can't say I've ever had the pleasure of hearing the Reverend live in the flesh. We don't get the fancy invites that the politicians get, being lowly accountants.
Fancy invites, please. All are welcome in our house, 24/7, 365. You should come someday.
Separation of church and state. They want to keep it that way. Happiest clams winding through the lovely thickets of 74's tax returns. Give good Reverend our regards. Here he's got a lot on his plate with the new homes and apartment buildings. Getting to be a regular city treasure.
National treasure. We've got churches coast to coast.
Yeah, quite the entrepreneurs. Good head for business and all those fragile, quivering souls.
Do you mind making change for the bus?
The white secretary opens the drawer and gives her change. Taryn exits. Carol nods goodbye, then follows Taryn out to the street.
I think he'll be running the place in a few years.
Excuse me?
Sorry, I didn't mean to be forward. I don't think I've ever seen an Afro-American there, except maybe a tent tucked away in the break room.
Is that so?
Place is antediluvian. Malloy's got one showpiece, black on his board, and then he trots around for galas. The ladies get ghetto eyes in the secretarial pool. Integrating places like this is something we're really invested in.
We're?
Carol digs into her bag, takes out a pamphlet, and hands it to Taryn.
Our church, we do freedom circles about social and political issues and have cultural events every weekend.
The Rainbow family.
Those are Reverend Jim's children. Orphans he's adopted. Oldest son's black, you're a genius. Jim and his wife got him at birth in Indiana.
Oh, my sister and I just moved from here.
You have kids? By the way, I'm Carol.
You all have some kind of pull with Malloy and his people?
Paul?
Clout, influence. Meaning, instead of hoping that I get to be the first in the flesh Afro-American hired, you can actually do something about it.
Well, I don't know that we...
Well, let's get your God to move on that one then.
We're not God-based.
A white elephant church that's not based on God? Well, that's good, but how'd you manage that?
Taryn's younger sister, Hi, enters the building.
You almost done in here? I'm late for my appointment.
Thanks for the literature.
What was that all about?
White woman hawking peace and love. She belongs to some kind of church represented by Malloy's firm.
She hands Hi the pamphlet.
Got a whole lot of color up in here. Two kids.
The pastor's some kind of urban missionary? How do you feel?
Like shit.
Did you take the pain pills?
For the 100th time, yes. How'd the interview go?
Okay. Evidently they hide their visiting Negroes in the break room.
I applied at the laundromat and the A&P today. When I get my first check, I'm going to pay you back for the medical bills and everything.
The most important thing, Hyde, is you bouncing back mentally.
I'm already bounced back.
You sure?
Look, it was an abortion, not a lobotomy.
Well, it was the best fucking thing that could have happened to you right now.
Still smell like I got dumped in formaldehyde.
What's this stuff on your hands?
Taryn examines Hi's left hand tenderly. It has writing on it. Hi grabs it away from her.
It's phone numbers. You must have called 50 different help wanted places while you were up in there. No dice. Can't do that Doris Day decoy voice like you do.
Stop marking up your hands. You want people to think you're some sort of undisciplined psycho?
Matter of fact, yeah.
The rent's due in a week.
Right.
I heard the landlords in the building next door might jack up the rent, which means we're probably next.
But I'll be able to give you something soon.
Look, it's okay. I can float us for a bit.
Right. Like you always do.
If I get this job, the first check will be in 2 weeks. After that, we'll have enough for the light bill, food, bus fare, dry cleaning. I'm gonna have to wear a suit every day. And shit, there's the interest on the abortion bill if it goes into collection. Do you want me to just ask Mama for some help?
No, I told you there's no need. I got plenty of prospects. There has to be some black-owned businesses around here that are hiring for someone I can apprentice with.
Well, you're gonna have to get in line with the hundreds of others looking. Maybe if you went back to school.
Stop managing me.
It's shit jobs with no degree high. You can't slum it like Barbie.
Slumming. I'm out here on the streets every fucking morning. Malcolm X said his alma mater was the books.
That's very fucking eloquent. He had a penis in between his legs. Come on, let's go.
The interior of a church with rows of chairs facing an altar and a podium. Ida Lassiter, an African-American woman and journalist in her late 50s, sits in the back of the church watching the crowd as members of all ages flow through the aisles. On the stage, an organist, a drummer, and several other musicians watch the crowd file in. They tinker with their instruments.
Quick, can you catalog your favorite smells in the whole wide world in 10 seconds? I was always partial to lilacs. Sickly, overbearingly sweet, yes, but they were grandmother's favorite. A tiny little refuge you could savor before being told, "Tar, baby doll, this ain't for you." Word had it that the town fathers, the mayor, the sheriff, the tax assessor, asked Wilbur, stripes busting from his chest, just back from the Great War, "Quick, nigga, catalog your favorite smells in 10 seconds. Before they pulled him off the train and gutted him from ear to ear for refusing to take off his uniform. That was my first case.
The spotlight goes off her as Maybelline Jones walks through the crowd with a tambourine. She pauses to greet nearly every parishioner, hugging, patting shoulders, smiling warmly at children. She makes her way to the back of the church, stopping at Ida's seat.
Hello, Mrs. Lassiter. Nice of you to come this evening.
Evening. Looks like another good turnout.
Yes, we're quite blessed.
The San Francisco press has been quite flattering.
Some have. To what do we owe this pleasure?
Working on a new piece.
I heard your paper was shut down.
The official reason was cost overruns. It was only a matter of time.
I'm sorry.
Don't be. Ways to pick those. They're far more deserving subjects.
Sister Leslie walks up to Maybelline holding a flower.
I just wanted to thank you for the care package you sent us, Mother May. My boy is recovering just fine from his operation.
Don't mention it. We're hoping you and your family can move into one of the Temple apartment collectives soon.
Oh, we like that. Buzzards at the bus company say they can't give me health insurance because I'm working part-time, but they cheat us out of breathing air if they could.
Check with Carol about getting your son into our new
Maybelline takes Leslie by the arm, turning for a moment back to Ida, smiling coolly as Ida takes a notepad from her purse and starts writing. Leslie joins the congregation.
At some point, I'd like to sit down with you, Mrs. Jones.
No, I don't think so. There's nothing I could tell you that you haven't already heard straight from Reverend Jones' mouth.
She turns, gesturing to the children seated in the congregation.
Such radiant angels. My oldest son, Jimmy, had the same Big Dipper eyes when we adopted him from the Negro ward as a baby.
He must have been something. And what a tall, strapping young man he's grown into. You must be very proud of him and your other boy, Dionne, right?
Yes. Of course, you knew that. His name already.
After all these years, some details get dimmer, more nebulous. Others are crystal clear, like your elegant singing voice. You still lead the choir?
When I can. I'm still called. But what with getting the new clinic up and running and our cross-country bus trips and getting folks settled into the collectives, it's
Exhausting.
necessary. So, you've come at an opportune time. Again.
Yes, I've come. Watching from the water.
Taryn and High enter the sanctuary, looking for a seat. Jess McPherson, an African-American woman, therapist who provides counseling service for the church, walks over to them with programs.
Evening, sisters, welcome. Please sit.
We can only stay for the first half.
The congregation rises, swaying to the music, clapping their hands. Maybelline takes her place on the altar alongside the choir, taking
sing along the song. There's so much going on, and to keep it together, to truly keep it together, we need that midweek boost, that spiritual adrenaline shot, that mental elixir, and you all know what I'm talking about. Yes, brothers, sisters, put your hands together and welcome the good Reverend Jim Jones.
Indianapolis, Indiana, 1958. The screen behind her shows a black and white picture of an old movie theater. The marquee has the name of the film, Auntie May, on it.
America is crazy for Auntie May.
A little white boy and a black boy walk by holding a picket sign that says, "Integration now" on it. An interracial group of adults join the carrying similar signs. Some begin humming Amazing Grace. A black photographer walks up and starts snapping pictures of a white policeman hot on his heels, walks over and starts interrogating him. Ida's gaze darts from the officer to the photographer to the sight of a young Jim Jones leaning into the window of the theater ticket booth, a thick wad of bills on his hand.
You got a permit for that, boy? A what?
We don't need a permit to take pictures on a public street.
Who are you?
A journalist and a citizen.
Jim Jones enters the stage and walks up behind the officer, a warm, knowing grin on his face. He makes a show of introducing himself to Ida.
Ida Lassiter, distinguished founder and publisher of Sojourner, a weekly newspaper. Pleased to meet you. I'm a longtime follower of yours.
What's this ruckus about, Jones?
The 5:30 show, officer. We're just trying to get in to see good old Auntie May.
No Negroes ain't allowed in that place.
We aim to change that.
You step so much as a toe in that place, and I have you and all your people arrested. And you, boy, you got 2 seconds to get out of here.
This is public property. You don't have enforcement rights here.
The officer prepares to get in her face when Maybelline steps onto the stage. She is visibly pregnant.
What seems to be the problem, officer?
You're with these people, man.
I'm Maybelline Jones. This is our congregation.
Man, you're gonna have to clear out of here.
2 more officers walk on.
We got nearly 100 paying members that'll come and pack this theater. Put butts in seats that would have been empty otherwise. Now what red-blooded American businessman is going to reject that kind of profit?
They have been for decades, since Al Jolson first bleated Mammy off screen. This has nothing to do with pure commerce, Jones.
Officer, can you at least hold your boys off until we've sat down with the head of the theater company?
He pauses as the other officers step up, billy clubs in hand. He eyes them, hesitating, glancing at Maybelline pregnant belly.
Okay, you got 5 minutes. And you got 10 seconds, boy. I got an ordinance to enforce.
The officer turns to huddle with the other policemen.
Oh shit, what ordinance?
Hell, when did these crackers ever ask permission to pull illegal crap out of thin air? We'll slap their latest fabrication right on the front page tomorrow. Galvanize these bourgeois Negroes in Sunday service.
Much obliged, Mrs. Lassiter. If you ever have time and we're so inclined, we also do seminars on tenants' rights every Monday in the basement of the church. I know you've tackled that.
Think any of those folk would go on record about the 20 slumlords I wrote about last week?
We don't want anybody retaliated against and kicked out before we close on our new building.
Then you have to be the public face.
I'm ready.
They're gonna come for you.
I built this up from nothing. That is, with the help of these good people and Jesus' guidance.
And your daddy?
A drunkard and a Klansman in that order.
A discredit,
Liked his booze better than lighting torches.
a discredit to his race. Mama, though, was a straight-up Union gal.
Been collecting intel on me.
You've been seducing some of our folk away from Calvary Baptist with the pixie dust. You raising the roof Monday?
Preaching? Yeah, a little.
I'll be there then. I enjoy a good stem winder.
Ida rejoins the congregation. The congregation stands and applauds, watching. As Ernestine Markham, a black school teacher, walks to the front of the church and takes the mic.
The time is nigh, brothers and sisters. if you haven't fully committed your hearts and minds to this journey of peace, what are you waiting for? Many of you know me as your children's teacher, on the front lines of making sure your babies aren't beat down by the white man's distorted version of the world, where we're all subliterate apes, grunting and scratching in the trees.
That's right.
Some of you know I've been living 10 years with chronic pain. Honestly, I want him to take me. My doctor's bills are piling up. Collection people hounding us all hours.
Saint Ernestine.
I pray to be delivered from this pain.
Prayer is a fool's errand, sister. The deeper question is why somebody like you, the best that humanity has to offer, wallowing in pain like a pig in excrement every waking moment of your life.
Amen.
Ernestine clasps Jim's hand affectionately. The applause rolls.
I had a restless night last night, family. Couldn't sleep a wink.
What was troubling you, Reverend Jim?
It was 3 o'clock in the morning and I was down on my knees praying for the umpteenth time. Hallelujah. Praying for deliverance from this accursed insomnia.
Yes, Lord.
Was down on my knees when I realized
Raises the Bible.
this is lies.
Yes.
What they used to rape, pillage, and enslave us. What they used to rip us from the rich lands of Africa and put us into chains.
The Lord is going to strike his heritage against Daniel.
Tell me this now. Why would a merciful, all-knowing, all-powerful God let poor black people starve on the streets in the richest country on earth?
Yes.
A country that's practically got a nuclear warhead for every able-bodied person living and breathing. Answer me that now.
Well,
Now why would he let mothers have to put their babies down crying and filthy and hungry every night? I say that's sacrilegious. And that's an abomination in the eyes of any so-called merciful God that claims to be all-powerful. If I blaspheme seeking true righteousness, brother.
I ain't your brother.
Where that slave master's book ever get you?
Sister Ernestine and many of the other sisters here wake up every morning and go to bed at night with the good book.
Yes.
Know it cover to cover. Could do dissertations on it. Genesis to Revelations, Adam to the white horse, and false religion. Y'all can't tell me there's somebody works harder than them doing menial jobs, putting food on the table, making barely minimum wage.
As you know, we opened up our homes for the church to use for senior living. Thank you.
Amen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Don't go, brother.
I told you I ain't your brother.
I love him and guard him as my brother, same as everyone here.
To follow the good book? How can you stand up there and call yourself a Christian?
Christians live the example of Jesus Christ. Live it, not pimp it. I take no salary. Live here with my people 365 days. Now, a lot of my brethren, the white ones, preaching charity up in their $1 million parishes on Nob Hill, and the black ones down in Oakland, these so-called learned men ordained by the most prestigious divinity schools in the country, don't do that. They'll raise thousands of dollars and from the collection plate, run a soup kitchen that goes belly up a month later. They'll be raking in the disability checks of our black grandmothers. As a man of conscience, I know you've asked yourself why would God permit that in the good old US of A.
Scene 2. The sanctuary is empty except for Ida sitting in the back and the 6 other women of the company who sit in chairs facing the audience. They all are holding newspapers.
Newsflash! A Negro, I mean a colored, I mean a black girl,
Negress and tree.
Negress, was kidnapped from the corner of Geary and Leavenworth snatched up in broad daylight.
Bobby socks, bangs, library books and all.
Oh, no, not Sally Sue with the gingham dress and the baby blues.
Shit.
No. That would have been one for the National Guard, the FBI, the ink-stained wretches of the Gray Lady would have come chivalrously calling had such a calamity been registered. What say you, negresses?
Woman 1
Guilty as charged.
Woman 1 begins to cut the flag. Carol comes on stage. Ida has her notebook open.
Understand that I don't typically talk to the press.
Oh?
I'm sorry, I mean Reverend Jones's wife, Maybelline, could be more
You
helpful.
have valuable insight to give as someone who's risen up in the ranks all these years, working dutifully behind the scenes.
There are no ranks here, Mrs. Lassiter. Everyone does what they can to support the church and the cause of peace and justice.
Judging from tonight, your numbers are up. The Reverend's theatrics are playing well.
If speaking truth to power is theatrics.
I'd say chucking Bibles is good, robust entertainment.
Membership has taken off since opening the new churches here in San Francisco and Los Angeles. There's such a good need, such a hunger here, as Reverend Jones says. These go along, get along churches think they can throw a few food pantry crumbs around and expect folks to be satisfied.
Pimping and shilling faith. Been that way since those crackpots first cooked up the Bible. I hear you've got a drug rehab program going?
50 graduates today. 75 enrolled, 100 on the waiting list from Fillmore to South Central LA. Smack, Angel Dust, PCP, Coke, Mary Jane, alcohol, the works.
Snort, slurp, inject, one-stop shopping.
We aim to get them clean and functional and out the door in 10 weeks.
What's at the end of the line?
Jobs.
Jemiah and Foster Sutcliffe come in with packing boxes.
These going over to the apartments on Main, Carol?
We have 15 families there, so we'll need one box for each.
Reverend going to get you all uniforms someday?
Ma'am?
At ease. I'm Ida Lassiter. I'm writing a piece on the temple's work.
Lassiter. Name sounds familiar. The Rev's got one of your articles on his wall from back in the day.
You're Red Brigade Guards, right?
Jemiah is one of our greatest success stories. Been mentoring other youth who are in the program. Foster is a budding musician.
Musician, percussionist, all genres.
A major talent.
We got the vans coming in 5 minutes. We need to get out there.
Excuse me.
She walks away with Jemiah giving a backward glance at Ida.
You play around the city?
Yeah,
Would you be willing to talk to me about your work here?
I don't work here. Just passing through, lending a hand for the night.
You're not the Rev's eyes and ears?
What would give you that idea, lady? No, being a punk isn't one of my talents.
I know he likes to have a lot of young bucks, or rather, young blood around him. What with all the chaos going on? Thousands of black folk being evicted, and I hear People's Temple has a lot on prime Fillmore real estate.
Bucks! As in livestock? Who are you working for? Huh?
There have been threats, real and imagined, correct?
You sound hopeful. What do you think keeps this place humming, Mrs. Lassiter? Ginning up drama, a whiff of persecution? Keeps the collection plate full, keeps the unwashed hanging from the rafters.
Harsh words, drummer boy. I thought it was the communion.
Harsh, we can't have that. not on the Sabbath. I'm sorry, Mrs. Lassiter, but we have a planning commission meeting shortly, close to the press. There's food downstairs. I can go and fix your plate if you like.
Lead the way.
Scene 3, in the People's Temple Sanctuary. Hi and Erin are seated in the church sanctuary preparing to leave. Hi picks from her plate of food. Erin searches through the phone to the bottom of her purse, looking for change. Jess, a therapist who works with church members, passes out flyers, sending off attendees warmly as they exit.
Nice, sisters. Good to see your faces again. We're having a spiritual jubilee with the Nation of Islam next month down in LA. Come, check us out. Penny for your thoughts, ladies?
I should think they're worth more than that.
She continues, rustling through her purse.
Bus fare.
For sure. I'm Jess. If you like, I can have one of the church vans take you home.
Okay. I'm Taryn Strayer. This is my sister, Hi.
New to the city?
A few months. I just got a job over at Malloy, Rifkin, and Burt. They do your church's books.
They treating you right over there?
It's a job.
I see you found the spread downstairs. Have time for a tour of the building?
I gotta get up early for a job interview.
Members continue flowing out of the church, fraternizing, buzzing about the sermon. A police siren sounds from outside.
Fuckers. Even when we complete without them, they got a special thrill out of rousting us from buildings black folk have owned for ages.
Well, what else is new? They won't let us own nothing.
It's not about them letting us. We still have people left in the Miles Station, the last black settlement in Indiana.
Yeah, a little rundown blip with an outhouse and a weather vane.
40 acres in a shit house in the middle of nowhere? That's about Indiana's speed.
One of the reasons why we got the hell out of there.
Oh yeah? The temple started there in the 50s.
Deep in the heart of Clansville.
A lot of old guard. Zipporah, Deacon James were from back there.
You followed the church from ground zero then.
Out of the fat and into the frying pan.
How so?
Have you taken a look at this place? A close, hard look. Outside the rarefied air of corporate accounting. The land of milk and honey is ladling up bullshit.
Do you always talk in bad metaphors?
Only to smart, mouthy women from Podunk, Indiana.
Up from Indianapolis, so I'll concede to 50% Podunk.
I grew up here, third generation. This whole area used to be mostly Japanese, except for us and a few white folks. Summers was a mini UN stickball summit in the streets until the feds started to snatch their people up and throw them in those concentration camps.
De Vera Medeiros, a temple member and writer, walks up to them with a plate of food.
Girl, check out these red beans and rice and baked chicken Carol made. Skinny no ass is getting better with each lesson.
These two sisters just attended their first service here tonight.
Right on. I'm De Vera.
She's one of the most talented writers in the Bay.
Oh, baby, you are too sweet. Gotta try this grub before it's gone. Ernestine put her foot in these oxtails.
Keeping it meat-free, sis. I'm transitioning from that artery clogging crap. Makes for clearer thinking.
I'm here. It was straight up macrobiotic gunk for me last month at rehab. Cold fucking turkey, beaten to submission with brown rice and broccoli.
Rehab? It was a temple program. A mix of spiritual and secular methodology. Treats addiction like a social, psychological illness, not a crime. Unlike most of these state-run outfits. We view overcoming it as a process the whole community is responsible for.
So I take it you were a part of involved in the process then.
I'm a licensed psychotherapist.
In private practice?
One of the few black women run practices in the state.
Our mother always ran to church praying to God or Jesus every time trauma or tragedy hit.
Yeah, most of us think therapy is a white woman's luxury. Still is in many regards. So, you like that part of Jim's sermon? The critique of prayer?
No. I don't do organized religion. My sister dragged me to church. She sniffed out a free meal with that bloodhound nose of hers. Plenty of times I got my butt kicked when I was little for being the weird one. And the assholes who dogged me got gold stars. That cured me of God, prayer, magical thinking real quick.
And you?
I'm the agnostic fence sitter, or so she says.
Carol walks in with two men, one white, one black, in business attire.
If it ain't Miss Ann and her minions.
That's that white girl who was handing out the flyers at Erin's office.
Carol Harper.
Coordinates operations.
Stays up under Reverend Jim like his second white shadow.
Oh, now, I don't think Miss Carol Ann is as compliant as all that. At least not behind closed doors.
Shit, forget her. Who is that fine-ass brother she's with?
Judging from the suits, that's probably one of Senator George Moscone's boys.
I heard he's favored to win over that right-wing zealot that he's running against.
We're canvassing for his mayoral campaign.
Well, what promises has he made to the black folk?
The usual jobs, anti-poverty programs, an honorary seat at the police commission's table after the pigs cracked heads in Fillmore.
And an end to black folk getting kicked out of our home.
He talks a good game, but you can't trust these shuck and jive politicians, white or black, to stick their necks out and buck the redeveloper parasites trying to gut our neighborhoods. Like I said, they fucked over the Japanese, and now it's our turn.
Yeah, but that's why we have to snag this guy. Otherwise, we'll just be niggas diving for table scraps.
If the city had half its way, half of middle America would be up in here. Hell, Carol's probably fucking the black one. Getting down and going down for the cause. That's how those white motherfuckers did it during the Black Power days. Love to get them some black ghetto dick, then run home to their daddy's money.
The Moscone boys shake Carol's hand and exit.
Welcome. I see you found our resident sages, Devira and Jess. Taryn, right?
Yes.
The firm hired you, I heard, to their credit. You coming to the planning commission tonight?
Like I always do.
Excellent. Appreciate your expertise. You may have noticed that we have a visitor.
You mean that, sister?
The inquiring mind and distinguished chronicler of black life.
Wants to cover us.
I'll find some people for her to talk to.
Thanks.
She walks off as more parishioners come through with boxes.
It's important to support the black press.
Except when they're propping up handkerchief-headed Negroes that don't say shit when they're taking our buildings.
Yeah, I'm quite sure a lot of them have their hand in the till.
Or on a ghetto dick. That's the kind of language they taught you in therapy school.
A tad prudish, sis. It's graduate school. Did my time for 3 years. And brothers have never been above throwing us under the bus for political leverage.
You got something against black men?
No, just the indoctrinated ones that act like white girls are the second coming.
And what percentage is that in your mind?
It seems like a big one in this city.
And how qualified are you to comment? You've never been interested in anybody black.
That proves how much you know about me.
3 decades under the same roof, and I think I have a pretty good idea. Could write a fucking encyclopedia. Later for this.
Speaking of the black press, good, bad, and indifferent, I've got my own deadline to meet for the People's Forum. See y'all.
Bye, baby. I hope I didn't set off a riot between you two.
No, it's long-standing stuff. She's trying to get her bearings together here, and it's just not happening fast enough.
Happens. New place, adjustments. These things, there's things you can get involved with at the church to smooth the transition. We do a women's rap group Thursdays. Why don't you bring her around?
That's not my thing.
Okay. Can I get a private audience instead?
Sure.
Gestures for Taryn to hold out her hand. She takes out a pen and writes her phone number on it.
Call me.
Scene 3, Office of Ida Lassiter, 1964. An audio recording plays the sound of applause. It is interspersed with the sound of MLK's voice, a newscast reporting the 1963 Birmingham church bombing and Malcolm X's The Ballad of the Bullet speech. A phone starts ringing. Ida Lassiter, who is standing behind the desk, puts her hand on it, pauses for a second, then snatches it up. A man's voice screams curse words on the other end. She holds it away from her ear and then calmly puts it down. Jim Jones sits wide-legged in a chair on the other side of her desk. He is pensive, idly kneading his right hand.
How many is that?
10, 11, just tonight. My assistant editor has a special log to keep track of all of our fan messages.
What about calling the police?
The phone rings again. She picks it up and waits for onslaught.
Looks like we got a heavy breather. That's novel.
She puts the phone down.
The boys on the Assembly of God Ordainment Board are itching to brand me a Judas.
Takes a handkerchief and wipes off the phone.
Sounds about right. Nice feather in your cap.
What?
The infamy, that is.
We got big extended families coming into church every Sunday, Mrs. Lassiter. Generations packing in, 8 months to 80. After they executed those little angels in Birmingham, Alabama last year, the matriarch of one of our new Negro families from Texas said she wasn't going to let Satan turn her away from God's word.
I'm not a champion of rubbing elbows and breaking bread with white folks just for the sake of we shall overcome. Now, the developer you're talks with to rehab the Derringer building knows your race credentials. They sniffed you out and figured they could profit some way. Looks good for them to have a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young white pastor on their scorecard, even if he's consorting with darkies.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, that's what you think of me?
Doesn't matter what I think.
Matters to me a great deal.
Where'd you get that hair, boy? Dip it in an inkwell?
1/4 Navajo on my mother's side.
She been briefed on that? You're about as Navajo as Doris Day.
The phone rings again. She picks up a newspaper on the desk, tosses it to Jim. The paper is turned to an article with the headline, Negress Publisher Blasts Religious Leaders.
You're men of God.
Cowards. Mrs. Lassiter's small rag has done a stellar job of exerting influence on disgruntled elements of the otherwise peaceful Negro community. Rather than attack our finest religious leaders with trumped-up charges of bigotry and fraud, she would do better directing her efforts to beating back the communist threat posed to our nation and the Negro community by East Coast agitators and Martin Luther King-type zealots. Or perhaps Mrs. Lassiter counts herself among the ranks.
So ponderous. I guess Mary the commie-loving colored bitch sells papers.
Jim folds the paper and puts it on Ida's desk, leans forward, scratching at his head.
You know, if you want, I could have some of my men come by and guard the office.
That's charitable, but unnecessary.
She opens the top drawer of her desk and takes out a handgun.
Gift to myself a few years ago after the first round of love letters like this.
She puts the gun back on the desk.
Well, yours is the only Negro paper that pays us any mind. No doubt mixing Negro and white is too radical for the Sugar Hill set.
Half of that set's itching to be white anyway. No, it's your preaching socialism and redistribution that makes their lips curl.
Oh.
And most Negroes are ardent go-to-the-barricades capitalists. Patriots, too, lapping up that sour mother's milk. And therein lies the problem.
Maybe you could come back to church on Sunday service this week. Folks really got a boost from the coverage.
Folks?
She picks up the gun and examines it.
Me?
Sundays for editing. I have 6 whole other days to lobby God without an intermediary.
Turns over the gun, squinting.
Ever fired one of these at a moving target at point-blank range? Ever wondered about the math behind the arc of the grenade bullet?
Jim picks at his hand. The phone rings again, then stops. She puts the gun down and pulls out the first aid kit with a bandage from the desk drawer and tosses it to Jim.
Here.
Puts the bandage on Winston.
Muggs, our pet monkey, damn near took my finger off the other day. We did the rounds at the Children's Hospital, visited kids in the cancer ward. You never know how goddamn powerless you are, how cutthroat the Lord's universe is until you're staring in the eyes of a bald child, blissed out over some smelly grinning ape. Just a little thing, a simple thing like that.
She gets up from behind the desk and sits on it in front of him, taking his hand, examining his fingers skeptically.
You'll live.
Maybe.
Their fingers lock. Ida shakes Jim's hand loose. They stare at each other for a moment. She leans forward and cups his hand in her hand firmly.
Silly boy.
Maybe.
The phone rings again.
A vacation from the countrified masses.
He looks at her for a beat, then kneels in front of her. She strokes his hair as the phone continues ringing and lowers his head between her legs. He starts to go down on her. She leans forward, pulling his hair into a knot, watching the phone. Lights go down. 1975, Temple, inside a meeting hall. Chairs are assembled in 2 rows. The women occupy ones in the second row. Devera, High, and Foster are seated in front. A crowd scene is projected on the screen behind them. Applause sounds and Jim's voice coming out.
Peace.
A spiritual jubilee of sorts, best and brightest of the Afro-American religious establishment, suited, booted, and sniffing each other on a warm San Francisco night in the bicentennial.
We were on the road for 10 whole hours trying to get back here. One of our buses broke down in Modesto. My son Jimmy Jr. tries to flag out a car and no dice. 10 minutes later, here comes another and no dice. 5 minutes and Mrs. Seymour, nice Hoosier white lady, gets out to flag it down. Hell if that car didn't stop on a dime. When the white man at the wheel sees a busload of black folk, well.
Encroaching.
Tomorrow, we're laying a petition on City Council to stop the mass evictions. Can I get your signature, brother?
Yeah, of course. Is New Blood here endorsing it?
Howdy. Seen you somewhere before. You with the church band?
Used to be on drums. You what?
Strictly thigh and tabletop.
Nice. I'm down for a duel later if you can hang.
Name the time and place. I've heard about you. You got a rep for being a braggart.
Who fed you that horse shit? Devera? The voice of the lumpen proletariat?
We had you down to campus the other night and you were MIA.
Right, and I will continue to be MIA.
Fighting for our political future ain't glamorous enough for you.
I got a job to go to, kids to feed, bills to pay. Not busting my ass for free no more. Ask Jim and Carol where all the money they get from all that politicking is going.
We know where it's going, brother, to keep the people housed, fed, clean, and awake.
Awake like munchkins in a poppy field.
You have a beef, bring it up to the commission.
If you're down the hang later on the skins, I'm playing at Satchmo's off Geary's Thursday and Friday evenings. Drop by sometime.
Set up slavery, then apartheid. Got black folks hating themselves, squatting like dogs in their own country. Well, Southern fried apartheid is no different than what we got in San Francisco, where we're living on top of each other in first world slum.
Brother Foster is a flaker, a rebel in his own mind. You ever committed to anything in your life?
What kind of question is that?
Anything outside of yourself, your world. There's a war going on, you know. Nation of Islam, other churches, their people are joining us.
And no wonder. They keep black women bowing and scraping.
3 steps behind.
Mopping up shit.
While the anointed take credit for the saving of the race.
Indiana Methodists bled my mother dry with them sun up to sundown tithe marathons, rookie maids who still cracked in the outhouses and barely had 2 pennies to rub together. I said I would never set foot in the so-called house of God again.
Same here. Priest looked straight at me and said, God forgives all freaks of nature, conditionally. The motherfucker was tippling 100 proof between confessions and feeling up anything baby-faced and breathing in the rectory chat room.
And now you're writing for the temple.
Keeps me sane. No one else is moving an agenda in this place. We could use your energy.
What is Jess's game?
Game?
All that strutting around. Bad case of HNIC.
It ain't no game, it's battle mode. She'd been strutting all her life to keep from going ape shit. Between the white boys on the licensing board trying to revoke her credentials to flicking off the parasites who want to shut us down. Hooking sister is a good diversion.
Taryn's not a diversion.
Joy. I meant joy. And she deserves a little.
And you?
This is my joy.
Just said something about a job at the new clinic y'all opened.
Yeah. We got a waiting list for the immunizations. That's a mile deep. They need folks to do intake. Want me to put in a word for you? You be good on the board.
Thank you, Reverend Jones. Thank you for bearing witness this evening. And now we'll have a few words from Brother Tariq Muhammad of the Nation of Islam.
There's a temple meeting tomorrow night about stopping the evictions. You in?
The sound of cheering booms from the speakers. De Vera stands and begins waving her hands in response.
Well, you in, sister?
Power concedes nothing without demand.
Yeah.
Scene 4, the home of Ernestine Markham, San Francisco, 1976. Ernestine Markham is sitting on a couch with a cup of tea in her hand, grading papers. A table with a teapot is next to her and a number of many family photos. Boxes and other personal effects are stacked up around the couch. A knocking sound is heard.
Come in.
It's open.
She stands up as Ida Lassiter comes in walking briskly. She's carrying a notebook and extends her free hand.
Hello, Mrs. Markham. Thanks for agreeing to meet with me. Such a lovely home. Moving soon?
In a few weeks. Just got back from the Temple's Spiritual Jubilee down in Los Angeles. Please sit down. Tea?
I hear a lot of work went into that affair.
Ernestine pours Ida a cup of tea and hands it to her.
One of my students recited an excerpt from Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail.
Fitting. Los Angeles is just day-glow Jim Crow with dirty beaches and endless sunshine.
Beaches for white folks. When we came out here from Tuscaloosa in the 50s, all those beaches were spook-free zones. LAPD would be all over us if we so much as dipped a toe in the parking lot or batted an eye at Blondie in her bikini.
Tuscaloosa, huh?
Yeah. Came out in the winter of 55. A few years before I had my son Byron. I was too mouthy for the pinhead headmaster of the Negro girls' school I was teaching at back there.
And how did you land at the temple?
Some of the women in my former church had kids who were involved in the temple sports and music programs.
She points to the trophies stacked up in the boxes.
My Byron plays the trumpet. Classically trained since he was 7.
Impressive.
And you, Mrs. Lassiter, how did you become involved? I know you had a long association with the Reverend.
I started coming to church in the late 50s. Organized a few sit-ins, boycotts with the Rev in good old Indiana Klan country. Back then, he put the B in bright-eyed, bushy-tailed.
I followed your work, all of it back then. You have a fine record of journalism and distinguished service to the community.
Thank you.
Which makes it, your little dalliance, that is, all the more curious.
That was a lifetime ago.
He was a married man.
How is that relevant to our conversation?
You were screwing a younger, married white boy with a family. I'm just trying to establish a chronology on your extracurricular involvement.
An impressionable young buck led astray by Jezebel.
If the dirty shoe fits.
Have you had any offers on the house?
A few. An agent from the church is handling it.
From the church?
Proceeds from the sale will go to support our communal apartments in the new settlement we're building in South America.
The so-called Jonestown colony?
Oh, there's nothing so-called about it. We're building our own nation, Mrs. Lassiter. Ours. A nation of many races. A paradise within a black ruled country.
That's madness. If you people keep deeding your homes to the temple, what will be left for your son, for this community, for the future black people in this neighborhood?
A future? Here? Do you have children, Mrs. Lassiter?
No.
Okay. Borrow some for a day. Or, if that's too strenuous, just drop in on a classroom of black children and get a good deep whiff of the poison they're spoon-fed by the white school mobs who flee the ghetto in terror 2 seconds after the bell rings. Then you come back and talk to me about a future.
The women assemble back on the stage carrying newspapers. Ida and Ernestine join them. Jim and Maybelline come onto the stage, each holding a pair of boxing gloves. They hand them to two of the women, who proceed to put them on as they are talking.
Buried in the back pages of our fair city's paper of record, a curious item about goings-on.
A ruckus.
Hullabaloo in God's house.
How they beat the maligners to a bloody pulp on the altar for fun and profit.
Baby, do you like to watch?
The women with the boxing gloves crouch in a fighting position and begin circling each other as the women look on with their arms folded. One takes out a stopwatch and signals the other two boxers to begin. They lunge at each other violently, then separate as the women whistle and catcall. The two boxers grip each other in a ballroom dance pose, then swing around and face the audience. Now we will have a very short intermission.